Africa today, 54 countries with an enviable treasure trove of natural resources and vast tracts of arable land. Over 1 billion people interwoven in a magnificent tapestry of vibrant cultures and traditions. A continent bursting with the potential of untold riches and loaded with latent splendor and greatness. But it is also a continent riddled with challenges.
Globally, there's 1.2 billion people that live in abject, dire poverty. Of that 1.2 billion people, more than 400 million people live on the African continent. Now, Africa has a huge challenge in terms of infrastructure, in terms of barriers to trade, but more importantly, the challenges around agriculture. So our objective is to see how best we can remove the barriers across the African continent and to drive much needed farming growth.
These barriers include access to imports, access to markets, access to land and land usage rights, access to finance, inputs and lack of mechanization, to name but a few. To help overcome these obstacles, the NBF has launched the RtB, or Removing the Barriers program.
The RtB program is exactly what it says. It is to remove barriers for trade and investment in African agriculture. And the way we're doing it is to get private sector around the table, talk about what are the issues, find consensus, identify what are the barriers, and then remove these barriers in a coherent way.
The Removing of the Barriers program, it's an innovative approach. It steps away from the traditional way of developing new activities to help Africa's agriculture. And this approach holds the key to success in the next generation of efforts in tackling the agricultural challenges that we've had.
As part of the RtB program, the NBF recently launched the Southern African Agricultural Development Partnership Platform, or SAADPP. This private sector-led partnership platform is aimed at identifying and removing barriers to agricultural development, investments and trade in Southern Africa.
The SAADPP platform was created to bring together stakeholders to look at how do we collectively grow the agriculture sector. The agriculture sector employs about 80 to 90% of Africa's people, and therefore if there's huge growth in this sector, it will lead to sustainable livelihoods on a long-term basis.
SAADPP is now focusing on 3 stakeholder-identified thematic working areas. These are regional market integration, alternative funding streams, and capacity building. Removing barriers and constraints in African agriculture requires open dialogue between stakeholders, especially the private sector and governments.
The SAADPP is a multi-stakeholder platform that brings together participants from the government, the private sector, donors and DFIs, farmers associations, and anyone that's involved in the agriculture sector in Africa. We have created this platform as a method for private sector to discuss their common challenges and issues in investing in agriculture, and to work together with governments and other stakeholders on how to find a common solution to address these challenges.
Right now, the SAADPP platform is active across the Beira corridor, which includes Mozambique, Zambia and Malawi.
Understanding that the Beira corridor was being targeted for huge infrastructure development, we realized that agriculture relies heavily upon access to markets and therefore infrastructure. So the Beira corridor countries, namely Mozambique, Malawi and Zambia, were the ones that we had invested and targeted this Removing the Barriers programs for.
The SAADPP regional platform was initiated in 2012, and it has made considerable progress across the Beira corridor, with national platforms established in Mozambique, Malawi and Zambia.
Firstly, it was an area that really needed help in terms of small-scale farmers. They needed to be educated not only about business, but about farming, about seed, about fertilizer, and all these elements could be put together in elevating them from just being self-sufficient to being community sufficient, and in the end result hopefully taking their surplus capacity to market.
One of the key accomplishments so far is the mobilization. Mobilizing people here, mobilizing people in the 4 countries, that has been achieved. And you can feel like there's a structure that exists in each country now, which wasn't there like a year and a half ago.
Various pilot projects were launched across the Beira corridor, like the one launched in the Angonia region of Mozambique, to help integrate rural farmers into the agriculture value chains.
The provision of the animal traction equipments to the smallholder farmers in Angonia have managed to increase their productivity from 300 kgs to about 1,800 kilograms. So it's have managed to increase the income from $1 to $6 per day.
Thanks to support from partners like the USAID and Hewlett Foundation, the NBF in Mozambique has facilitated the granting of land ownership rights for rural women farmers, as well as assisted with the development of young entrepreneurs in the agricultural value chain. Working in partnership with government, a help desk was created to help attract investment in agriculture.
We were not well organized, but the coming in of this platform has created us the opportunity for partnership. Where there's duplication, we have partnered, and now that is what the donors are looking for. They're looking for the element of partnerships, and that way we are creating sustainability of the program.
Some of the success stories has been around the technical working group dealing with capacity building issues. We've got two champions, that is the IITA and In-Service Training Trust, that are focused on the issues of climate change and the issue of promoting technology among smallholder farmers, specifically in the cassava value chain, where they developed high-yielding varieties that they would like to promote amongst the smallholder farmers that are also disease resistant.
Removing the Barriers program was designed to provide sort of a kickstart to private sector, public sector engagement on these key issues that constrain agricultural sector growth in the region: investment, regional integration, and capacity in the region. So we feel that the program has done quite well in terms of meeting those initial requirements, and I have really enjoyed personally working with NBF and with Lynette Chen, the CEO, as well as the board of directors who we've come to know. And I think we've learned a lot as well working with NBF and their very remarkable membership of key businesses.
With the successful implementation of the SAADPP pilot projects, the NBF is seeking to replicate and upscale these projects into other countries in Africa. This will require additional private sector, donor and development finance support.
Our goal for Malawi is to look at the region. We have got a number of programs in the pipeline. We're hoping that those programs will make a tremendous impact on the economy. And then in the long run, because we're looking at the regional aspect, we're hoping that we'll become an area of excellence. This will attract more investment, not only in Malawi, but in the whole Southern Africa.
In order to overcome the problems of poor productivity and competitiveness of our commodities in Mozambique, we identified 8 projects to be implemented in Beira corridor, and we believe that those projects can really change the face of agriculture in Mozambique.
The next step will be now for us to consolidate our efforts. This is an opportunity for agriculture to become meaningful in order for it to translate its potential in terms of the actual investment on the ground. So what we need is increased investment, financial, human resource at all levels of the economy.
I see this initiative becoming continental because its applicability cannot be questioned when you look at the challenges in Eastern Africa, West and Central Africa. So I sort of see this as something that holds the potential to be extended to touch on the continent as a whole.
The NBF's vision is to continually expand the continent's reach, deepen its networks, and bolster functional relationships across key focus areas. It aims to continue designing and implementing more projects and to competently support enterprise.
The incredible thing about the SAADPP platform is that there's been a huge level of interest and buy-in and commitment to the process. And this demonstrates the African ownership of its challenges in the agricultural sector and its commitment to finding solutions for these problems.
Right now, the rich rewards of promoting social and economic development across this astonishing continent are there for the taking.
Africa is on the move. Africa is rising. Africa is the the new frontier. So at the NBF, we are passionate about the African continent. So we welcome investors, both local and foreign, to work on the African continent, to invest in the African continent. We think the future is certainly bright.